Hello friends, I'm George, the nice smelling gentleman. Welcome back to the channel guys, I hope that all of you are doing well. It's time for another scoring type of video, and today I'm going to score 15 fragrances from the brand of Fragrance World. Now, I did a similar video about Fragrance World scents about a month and a half ago, where I ranked 12 other Fragrance World scents, but since in the past few months I've accumulated quite a lot of fragrances from that brand. Today I'm going to score 15 more of them. Now, I just wanted to mention something out before I go and actually show you the ranking and the scoring of the fragrances featured in today's video, and that's the fact that in this video I'm going to also show you some of the Fragrance World sub-brands like FA Paris, French Avenue Paris, and also Atour Alam. And so moving on to the lowest one, the lowest scoring fragrance featured today, it comes actually from Atour Alam, and it's called Moonlit Night, the one and only. And this fragrance is heavily inspired by, as you can probably guess looking at the bottle, by Dolce & Gabbana, the one Luminous Night. Now, the scent itself is not that bad, but the reason why this will get the lowest score today, and that's the score of 4, there are going to be two main reasons for that. The first one is because this feels very synthetic. The scent feels really synthetic, especially up close and especially in the first few minutes of the life of the fragrance, and that's something that I just cannot get past. I've had this fragrance for quite a while. I gave it enough time to macerate and, you know, settle a little bit, but still the opening, the first 5 to 10 minutes are super synthetic and pretty much unbearable for me. And the second main reason why this will get a score of 4 is because of the performance. Initially, when you first spray this fragrance and it's the first hour of the life of this fragrance, it tends to be really strong and projects really hard. But immediately after that, it quickly becomes a skin scent, and about 5 to 6 hours later, it completely disappears from my skin. I'm really curious to see how did you find my scoring of the fragrances today. Please use the comment section below the video to let me know. Moving on to the next fragrance that would actually get a score of 5, and that one again comes from the sub-brand of Atour Alam, and the fragrance itself is called Amir Al Sahra, and this fragrance is sort of inspired or cloning Tom Ford's Tobacco Vanille. Now, again, I'll give you two reasons why this will get a low score of 5. The first reason is because this is a harsher, more tobacco-y take on the original DNA, something that's not up to my liking. It lacks the sweetness of the original fragrance, and it has more of an emphasis on that tobacco note, which just feels rough, feels I don't know, just of a lower quality, which is to be expected because this is a lower quality sub-brand of Fragrance World. And the second reason will have to do with the performance again, because this initially opens up pretty harsh, pretty strong and synthetic. You may end up thinking that this will be a pretty strong performer, but actually after 1 hour again it becomes more of a skin scent and doesn't last that long on skin. And there's a third reason, and that's the pretty cheap presentation and the whole feel of the bottle. Now, there won't be any fragrances that will actually get a score of 6, so I'm moving on to the fragrances that get a score of 7, and the first one is called Spectre Rate, part of the Spectre line of fragrances, and this fragrance is heavily inspired by Kilian's Black Phantom. Now, the reason why this will get a score of 7 and not higher is because I'm not a huge fan of the original fragrance, and you know what Fragrance World have done with the scent here is also not that much up to my liking. This is like a slightly sweeter take on the original DNA. A few things why you should consider this fragrance though, and it doesn't get a lower score, is because it comes really uniquely packaged. I actually like the bottle design. Initially, when I first saw how the Spectre line fragrances look on photos, I thought that they look really tacky, but actually once I received it, I'm kind of liking the way this looks. Also, this has pretty good performance, and actually initially I wasn't a huge fan of this fragrance at all when I first tried it, but it grew on me in the next few weeks, and that's why this will get a score of 7. Another one that will get a score of 7 will be Cocktail Intense, this one from Fragrance World, and this is fragrance done very similar to something like by Kilian's Angel Share. It's not a bad clone of Angel Share. This is a little bit more simplified compared to the original fragrance, just lacks, especially in the opening, lacks that strong boozy note, that strong cognac note that the original fragrance has. And to this day, this is one of the cheaper alternatives to Angel Share. And it's not a bad fragrance, I actually quite like it. It has a balanced scent profile. It's a good balance between performance, quality of the scent and price. And all around, actually, I'm a pretty big fan of Cocktail Intense, but the reason why this will get a score of 7 and not higher is first of all because it doesn't get very close to the original fragrance. Also, performance-wise, you know, it's nothing to write home about. It's decent perform about 7 hours, maybe slightly over 7 hours. But the main reason why this will get a score of 7 and not higher is because nowadays I think there are better alternatives, even from the same brand of fragrance world. And so now moving on to the fragrances that will get a score of 8. The first one is going to be Suits from Fragrance World, and this one is inspired by none other than the famous YSL Tuxedo. It's actually very nicely done. Again, a slightly more wearable version of Tuxedo. It lacks a bit of the spicy punch that the original fragrance carries. It's a little bit like a little bit sweeter, more vanillic and ambery take on the original DNA. Lacks a bit of the intensity of the rose note as well, but all around it's a very decent alternative to Tuxedo. Comes nicely packaged, it's pretty affordable. You know, performance wise it's not the best clone of Tuxedo, probably that's the main reason why this will get a score of 8 and not higher, but all around I think this is one good alternative to Tuxedo, especially if you can find it for a decent price. The next one that will get a score of 8 is again a member of the Spectre line, and this one is called Spectre Ghost, and this is inspired by Nishane Ani. The original fragrance is probably my most favorite vanilla based fragrance, and Spectre Ghost is a pretty decent clone of the original fragrance. But again, I'll give you a few reasons why this will get a score of 8 and not higher. The first thing is because scent wise it doesn't get super close to the original fragrance. It lacks, especially in the opening, it lacks that citrusy punch that the original fragrance has, that I absolutely love. And for the price that this is selling, it's a bit more expensive because it's part of the French Avenue sub-brand, which tend to be more expensive fragrances from Fragrance World. I was kind of expecting this one to be a little bit closer scent-wise. And the second main reason that this will get a score of 8 and not higher is because it lacks a bit of the performance. I'll be getting about 7 hours, and the original fragrance from Nishane is actually pretty much a beast mode performing scent. And then as a side note, a smaller reason why this will get a score of 8 will be because it's a little bit more pricey, and that coupled with the, you know, the lack of the similarities to the original fragrance and the fact that it doesn't perform as much as good as I expected it to be, that brings the overall score down to a score of 8. Another one that gets a score of 8, again sold under the French Avenue sub-brand, is the Shadow, which is cloning none other than Louis Vuitton's Ombre Nomade. Now the scent itself, quality wise and performance wise, I have absolutely no issues. Both the scent, the quality of the scent and the performance for me get the scores of 10 out of 10 for sure. But the reason why this will get a total score of 8 rather than higher than this, despite the fact that I absolutely love the scent inside here and the performance, is because of the price and because of the bottle size, and those two are connected. First of all, the bottle size here is only 60 milliliters. Yes, this is part of the niche line of French Avenue, which are more high-end up, you know, fragrances, but still I would have liked it if this came in a bigger bottle size. And the second reason is because this is quite pricey. This costs about 50 euros, which is one of the more expensive clones in my collection. So because of those two main reasons, you know, the price and the bottle size, this will get a score of 8. Other than that, this is one of the best alternatives to Ombre Nomade on the markets. So moving on to a few fragrances that will get a score of 8, will actually turn out to be surprisingly good, that I didn't expect them to be as good and as impressive as they came out to be. The first one is called Feroce from Fragrance World itself. This one is cloning Dolce & Gabbana Light Blue Forever. Now, I'm not a huge fan of the original fragrance, but Fragrance World have done really good job, you know, copying the original scent. It's this, you know, grapefruity based fragrance that feels a bit bitter and a bit sour, but has a bit of amber sweetness on the dry down, and actually is surprisingly good quality wise and also surprisingly good performance wise. For a freshie, this performs really nicely and also projects really nicely, and all around I think Fragrance World have done a fantastic job with Feroce. Another very pleasant surprise turned out to be Bavaria Men Intense, and this one being inspired by Bulgari's Men in Black. Now, I absolutely love the original fragrance, and I really didn't have very high expectations of Bavaria Men Intense, especially when I first received it. You know, I got the bottle in my hands, it really feels cheap, looks kind of cheap, and my first impressions when I tried it for the first time weren't very good, but after a few weeks of maceration this actually turned out to be a really pleasant surprise. It gets pretty close to the original fragrance scent wise. It feels a little bit lighter in the opening, a little bit more spicy, lacks a bit of the sweetness and the warmth of the original fragrance, but on the dry down actually gets pretty close. Performance wise, nothing spectacular, about 7 hours. All around, scent wise it turned out to be really nice and exceeded my expectations by quite a lot. And the last fragrance that is going to get a score of 8 in today's video again is from the brand of Atour Al Alam, and it's called Anaqeed. And this one is cloning Parfum de Marly's Layton exclusive. And it actually, considering how cheap this, it's actually surprisingly good. Now I'll give you a few reasons why this gets a score of 8 and not higher, and a few reasons why you should consider getting this fragrance. The reasons why this doesn't get a higher score is because the opening can feel a bit synthetic and a bit sharp, a little bit of a lower quality, which is to be expected at this price point. Also, the performance is nothing spectacular again. This lasts for about 7 hours on my skin. Still not bad though, considering the price point. So those are the main reasons why this won't get a higher score, but I'll give you a few reasons why you should consider getting this fragrance. The first main reason is because this can be found for really cheap. Usually costs about 25-30 euros, and at that price it costs a fraction of the price of the original scent. And also because actually, after the first few minutes this has a surprisingly good quality. The scent is actually surprisingly good. And moving on to the only fragrance that will actually get a score of 9 today, it comes from French Avenue again. It's called Mirage Absolu, and this, like the previous one that I just showed you, again is cloning Parfum de Marly's Layton exclusive. But this is feels a lot higher quality compared to the other one. But it's also quite a bit more pricey. Usually costs about double the price of Anaqeed. It comes from French Avenue. It comes really nicely packaged. The quality here is really good. There's absolutely no harshness. Scent wise, this is closer to the original fragrance compared to Anaqeed. All around it's a really good experience. Performs better again compared to Anaqeed, and the only reason why this will get a score of 9 not a 10 is because this is a little bit more pricey. It costs about 45-50 euros, which again makes it on the more expensive side when it comes to clone fragrances. And so let's move on to the 4 fragrances that will actually get a score of 10, a perfect 10 out of 10 score today. The first one is part of the Raw Blend line, and it's called Raw Blend Nero, and this one is inspired by Sava from Giza. If you're not familiar with the original fragrance, like I am, to be honest, this is very similar to Lattafa Hamra, to the OG Hamra. Actually feels super close to Hamra, but in my opinion this feels like even a slightly sweeter fragrance compared to Lattafa Hamra. Other than that, very similar to the fragrance from Lattafa. Offers a very similar performance. Hamra has always been a very strong performing fragrance, and Raw Blend Nero makes no difference. In fact, I think this is slightly better performer compared to Hamra. It's a beast mode performing scent, lasts over 10, 11, 12 hours on skin, and projects really strongly. This is a room filling type of scent. It comes really nicely packaged, really luxuriously packaged and presented. It's competitively priced. In some places this is even cheaper than Lattafa Hamra, and also because of its beastly performance, Raw Blend Nero will get a score of 10. The next one that gets a score of 10 is a fragrance that's cloning a discontinued gem from the Armani Code line, Armani Code Absolu. The original fragrance was this absolutely fantastic and beautiful creation, that sweet, powdery, fruity, leathery, an absolutely fantastic fragrance, but unfortunately it was discontinued. But luckily enough, Fragrance World have done their clone of Armani Code Absolu, and they've done a really good job. The fragrance itself is called Harmony Code Absolu and gets very close to the original fragrance. It's again pretty much the same mix of the sweet powdery notes with some fruity notes, with a nice amount of suede leather. Very sexy fragrance with very good performance. Not as good as the original, but still pretty decent performance. performing fragrance with very nice quality of the scent, and the best thing out of all is that it's very cheap. So for those reasons, Harmony Code Absolute is the next fragrance that gets a score of 10. The next one that again gets a score of 10 is yet another clone for Fragrance World of a discontinued gem. The original fragrance is called Jean Paul Gaultier Essence de Parfum, and again a very sexy fragrance that's very spicy, a nice amount of sweetness, a nice amount of leather again, super nice fragrance that unfortunately wasn't a huge success and got discontinued, but I absolutely love the original scent, and again, luckily enough, Fragrance World have done a great clone. It comes from the Posh line and it's called Posh Omega, and it's very similar to the original fragrance. Again, offers very good performance of the scent, of a very good quality of the scent, excuse me, offers a very decent performance, it's very competitively priced, and again another great way to get very close to a discontinued gem. So for those reasons, again, the next fragrance that gets a score of 10 is Posh Omega. And the last fragrance that will get a score of 10 in today's video again comes from the very same Posh line from Fragrance World, and again it's cloning a discontinued designer gem. The discontinued original fragrance comes from Mugler and it's called Amen Pure Malt, and it was an absolutely fantastic dark unique scent, and the clone from Fragrance World is called Posh Malt, and this is a very nicely done clone of Pure Malt. Now Fragrance World have another clone of Posh Malt that's called Starman Nebula, and that one is not bad as well, but I think Posh Malt is even better, gets closer to the original fragrance, offers better quality and offers better performance, and again a very nice and inexpensive way to get very close to a discontinued gem. So the last fragrance in today's video that will get a score of 10 is Posh Malt. And so guys, in today's video I scored another 15 fragrances from the brand of Fragrance World. I hope that you found this video interesting or entertaining. If you did, give it a like, and I also hope that you're going to join me in the next one. And until then, stay safe and bye bye.